There are a lot of people who think that the math of group selection doesn't work, and this is completely illogical. Now I'm going to go over the math of how group selection can work, just to prove from a mathematical perspective how you can have group selection. So let's say we use the circle to represent people with the group selection trait and the X to represent people without it. So you have 4 people with the trait here, maybe 4 people without the trait here, right? So let's divide these into 2 groups, because that's the whole point of group selection. It's selecting for groups. So in this group, we have 4 people with the trait and 1 person without it. And in this group, we have 4 people without the trait and 1 person with it. So let's say the group selection trait is something about self-sacrifice. So that's what's going to happen. See this guy? He's going to sacrifice himself for the group. Before we do that, let's do the math. Right now we have 5 people with the group selection trait and 5 people without. So the ratio is 1/2 of people. So it's 50-50 between having the trait and not having the trait. But let's say this guy here, since he has the trait, he sacrifices himself for the group. And now within the group here, the prevalence of the trait has gone down from 4/5 to 3/4. So the prevalence has gone down within this group. But let's say because of that sacrifice, this group outcompetes this group. So this group dies. Now the prevalence of the group selection trait has gone up to 3/4 because there are 3 people with the trait and 4 people total. So in that way, the presence of the group selection trait has made itself more common. Now let's remove this group. And now let's say that people all have kids. So everyone, they duplicate themselves. So this person duplicates himself, this person duplicates himself, and a duplication. Of course, this is simplified. So what's going to happen now is they're going to realign into groups again. This population is going to go into a group, this population is going to go into a group, and they're going to face off again. And this guy, let's say he sacrifices himself, but it outcompetes this other group. They die. And then the population goes back up. So now everyone has the group selection trait. Now for that to work, you may have noticed that the people with the group selection trait, they had to form a group with other people who also had the group selection trait. So if you had the trait and you saw someone else with the trait, you had to team up with each other to keep people without the trait out of your group. Because if you think about it, if you let someone in your group and they don't have your trait, you're fighting for your group, and in the process you're fighting for someone who is biologically dissimilar from you. So it's against your own interests to do that. So that's just basically in-group loyalty, out-group prejudice, in-group versus out-group bias. And that very much is a group selected trait. In-group loyalty is a group selected trait, and out-group bias is a group selected trait. And those traits work in conjunction with other group selected traits to make it easier for group selection to spread. So people who criticize group selection, oh, this mathematically doesn't make any sense. It's like they're forgetting that in-group loyalty is a thing, and that people with the trait will form up groups with other people with the trait to outcompete other groups. And yeah, you might sacrifice yourself to the group. That will decrease your genes within the group. But if you're forming your group with other people who already have your genes already, it's not going to really have that much of an impact, because your genes go down, but everyone else has the same genes as you, basically, in this capacity, as far as the group selection traits are concerned. So it really can work. It started at 1/2 and went to 3/4, and now, of course, it's just everyone has the trait.